Hello everybody, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. I am Felrus. Thank you for joining me to play some Raid Shadow Legends today. Guys, today I am going to be giving you the top 10 best rares in the entire game, in my opinion. And this is going to be coming from the perspective of speed, right? Speed is very much in the meta right now, and so I want to tell you guys how to progress your early game accounts the best way possible. If you want to create a new early game account, you can click my link in the description below to be rewarded with a free legendary champion Corrado, as well as 3 free epics as you progress. Of course, those are going to be Thane, Romero, and Vergus, and you will get them as you progress through the game, guys. So without further ado, let's get into the video. These champions are accessible to everyone, and they can really make a difference on your account. And we are going to be taking a look at some of the strengths and weaknesses of these rares, and of course, how they fit into the current game, right? Of course, the current game is very speed focused. It's very much about doing as much as you can and doing the same things as often as you can. So we are going to be taking that into consideration for today's video as well. Number 1 on the list, this is a champion that I currently still use in a lot of content, right? It is going to be Kale, and this is the best starter champion in the entire game. Kale, he's coming in here. He's got a A3 that attacks 4 times at random. Each hit has a 40% chance of placing a 5% poison debuff for 2 turns. Guys, poison is damage over time. It is super strong. The 5% refers to the amount of max HP that the target will lose every time the poison ticks. So they are going to be losing 5% of their max HP unless they're a boss, in which case they'll take a little less. But 40% chance books to a 50% chance of placing a 5% poison debuff for 2 turns. Each of these hits is kind of weak, but all 4 together are very, very strong. All right, the A2 attacks all enemies, has an extra 15% chance of inflicting a critical hit here. Fills the turn meter of this champion by 25% for each enemy killed. Guys, this is absolutely crazy. So he needs slightly less than 100% crit rate, right? He's going to need about 85% crit rate for this skill. I still recommend building him fully with crit rate just because these other 2 skills need to have crit rate on them. But this A2 absolutely slam dunks, especially in the early game, right? Attacks all enemies. He's going to fill his own turn meter every time he gets a kill. Guys, that is super important for him to go super fast and get back around to these poisons, especially against waves, guys. And the A1 has an 80% chance of placing a 2.5% poison debuff, so a weaker version of poison for 2 turns. Guys, this champion is all about poison and all about damage, and he's going to speed himself up with this A2. This rare is absolutely worth building. If you are going to start your Raid Shadow Legends account with the link in the description below, you are going to want to choose this as your starter champion. You get him for free, and he is absolutely amazing. All right, so along the same lines, the next rare on the list is going to be Frozen Banshee here. Frozen Banshee is also a single target poisoner, so we're all about poisons here because when you're in the early game, you are going to want to use a lot of rares. You're going to want to get good value out of the rares, and these are some of the best to get good value of. So she's going to open here with her Frost Blight A3, attacks 1 enemy, places a 25% poison sensitivity debuff for 2 turns. Now, what poison sensitivity does is it increases the amount of damage that enemies take from poison. So poison sensitivity is going to increase the poison damage by 25%. It's similar to a weaken debuff, guys. So she's got a single target poison sensitivity on a 3-turn cooldown, and that is great. This skill also hits really, really hard. I have her built actually with crit rate so that she will crit and get out some damage with this, all right? The A2 is really interesting. It attacks 1 enemy, fills the turn meter of all allies by 2% for each debuff on the target. So every target can have 10 debuffs on them. So that's up to a 20% turn meter fill. Usually not that strong, but it is a very nice and very interesting turn meter fill. Definitely not the highlight of her kit, but it is there and it does add some extra utility, and it is a good skill, right? This also hits pretty hard. I think it has like a 6.6 attack multiplier. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. All right, and the A1 attacks 1 enemy 2 times, so double hit on the A1. Each hit has an 80% chance, books to a 100% chance of placing a 5% poison debuff for 2 turns if the target is under a poison sensitivity debuff. So what she'll do is she'll come in with the A3, place the poison sensitivity. She does need accuracy to do this, and then absolutely spam the crap out of her A1, and each hit will place poison, right? And then that is, of course, more damage over time, guys. This is an excellent, 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 excellent champion. Next on the list, the only other rare that I use on my account is going to be Painkeeper. Why is Painkeeper so good? Well, similar to the last two, she has a speed increasing effect, and that's going to be her A3 here, which decreases the cooldowns of all ally skills by 1 turn. That does include other Painkeepers, and that is on a 4-turn cooldown. So you can run like 3 of them in the same team and make yourself perpetually unkillable with like a block damage champion, such as Sir Nick, right? So Painkeeper's A3, absolutely amazing, decreasing the duration of cooldowns, which means your champions can get their skills off faster. The A2 here has an AoE with an AoE heal. She's going to heal based on her own HP, and she is HP based, so she is quite tanky. She is very good here. Very good heal, very consistent heal, and that is going to be on a 4-turn cooldown. And then finally, the A1 attacks 1 enemy 2 times and fills her turn meter by 10%. Again, she's going even faster, getting back around to her heal, getting back around to her cooldown reduction. She is absolutely bonkers, and this is a rare that is definitely worth investing in. All right, next on the list, this is going to be a fusion rare. You need her to do one of the fusions early game. I don't keep a copy of this rare personally, but that's because I have other champions that do the same thing better. It's going to be Diabolist. Now, Diabolist is very much on par with the meta right now. She is going to be really, really good early game and arena. Not so much end game, but that's because you get other champions to replace her, you know, relatively quickly, right? Fills the turn meter of all allies by 15%, decreases the turn meter of all enemies by 15%. So she's going to push your turn meter forward and drop the enemy's turn meter as well. You can put the Journal of Necrodos on her to increase that turn meter reduction, right? Pushing everyone back, making sure the enemy does not take as many turns, which means you take less damage and take fewer negative effects, right? All right, on the A2, attacks all enemies, so it's an AoE hit and places a 30% increased speed. That is a big version of increased speed, quite uncommon on a rare, on all allies for 2 turns. So in addition to boosting your turn meter, she's also going to make you go faster, which makes her a very, very good champion for arena early game. And of course, the A1 attacks 1 enemy with a 10% chance of placing sleep. It's kind of handy-ish, not very reliable, but it's nice when it happens, right? She is going to need accuracy anyways in order to do this A3. You'll notice that a lot of the champions I'm picking have very, very similar effects, and that is because speed is absolutely king. And that is the #1 mistake I see on most people's accounts when I, either do a takeover or review them, or we're just talking about the game. Speed is neglected by a lot more players than it should be. So these are rares that you are going to want for speed and to boost your speed, right? All right, the next one on the list, number 5, is going to be Spirit Host. This is a Dark Elf champion. I believe she is campaign farmable, right? On the A3, has a full cleanse. She's going to remove all debuffs from all allies and place block debuffs on all allies for 1 turn. That's on a 5-turn cooldown. So the cooldown is a little long there, but she does have a full cleanse, and for a rare, that is very, very good. Cleansing is essential in this game, almost as much as speed is. And then she's going to block debuffs. This is a very annoying champion in waves if she ever gets a turn, because you want to place your debuffs, right? And if you aren't carrying an AoE buff strip, you're going to have some problems doing that when this champion is on an enemy wave. So this A3 is the reason why she makes this list. But let's take a look at her other skills as well. She has a speed aura, increases ally speed in all battles by 10%. Again, helping you go faster. Again, helping push your turn meter farther, making sure you can do what you need to do as fast and as consistently as you possibly can. All right, and here's the A2, places a 50%, that's a big version, of increased attack on all allies for 2 turns. That is a great skill. That's on a 3-turn cooldown, which is not bad at all. And for a rare to place a big version of a buff, that is very strong. And then she will attack 1 enemy and heal by 50% of the damage inflicted. Not sure you're going to run her in a damage build, but it is a heal A1, and I am a huge fan of heal A1s, so that A1 is quite good. Moving on to number 6 on the list, guys, it's going to be a Barbarian. It is going to be a all-time favorite, I think, among a lot of content creators, and that's going to be War Maiden here. War Maiden is going to give you a AoE big version of drop defense. Now, drop defense will decrease the defense of anyone under drop defense by 60%, which means your damage dealers can hit harder. Right? I believe she is the only rare that has an AoE drop defense. It does book to a 100% chance of landing. Excuse me, I myself have considered building out a War Maiden just for that decreased defense in Barbarian Faction Wars, guys. So this is a very, very strong skill, drop defense on an AoE. The A2 attacks one enemy, places a big version of increased attack on this champion, and places an extra hit if this attack is critical. The extra hit cannot be critical. So, you know, some damage coming here from War Maiden, of course. And then the A1 attacks one enemy, has a 30% chance of placing a poison for 1 turn. So more poison, which is fantastic early game coming from these champions here. All right, number 7 on the list is going to be a champion similar to Diabolist, another very popular champion in the raid community, and that is going to be Apoc. If you are lucky enough to have a Apoc early game, a lot of dungeons and everything becomes easier. Becomes easier. Places a 30% big version of increased speed on all allies for 2 turns and fills the turn meter of all allies by 15%. That is a huge ability. Not only is he filling your turn meter, but he's also going to make sure that your champions consistently go faster on the same skill. You know, Diabolist has a turn meter drop and a turn meter fill, but this guy has a turn meter fill followed by a speed buff. So you are going 30% faster than you normally would have, taking 30% more turns. Very, very, very good skill on this A3 from Apoc, and that's on a 3-turn cooldown, and that is on par with a lot of legendary champions in this game, guys. So very, very good skill on this A3. All right, the A2 heals a target by 35% HP. The heal can be critical, which means that heal actually scales off of his crit damage. So you're going to want to build crit rate and crit damage on your Apoc here, in addition to speed. Of course, speed being the most important stat, but crit rate and crit damage can absolutely help him really milk this A2 for all of its healing potential. And the A1 attacks 3 times at random. Very good for Fire Knight. This is a very good champion to use in Fire Knight, particularly early game. This doesn't hit hard. It's not there for damage. It's just kind of there. It's okay. It's kind of below average, if I'm being honest, everywhere except in Fire Knight. But Apoc, a very, very good champion. Still continuing that theme of speed, the next rare that is worth building out is going to be Renegade. Renegade was recently brought up to me as a champion worth investing in, and that is because of this A3 here, Sacrificial Ritual, which goes to a 5-turn cooldown. Decreases the cooldown of all ally skills by 2 turns. This skill does not affect this champion or other champions with this skill, so you can't Renegade loop. This champion will receive damage equal to 30% of their max HP. This will happen even if it kills the champion. So for a price of 30% of her max HP, she will decrease everybody's cooldowns by 2 turns. This is very good if you don't have a Kaimar early game or if you don't have a Yumiko, right? You can get back around to your abilities faster, clear waves faster, get through bosses much, much faster. Let's take a look at the rest of her kit here. Attacks 3 times at random, has a 50% of chance of placing a decreased speed, a small version, for 2 turns, and also places a small version of decreased accuracy for 2 turns if the target has any active buffs. That's kind of a meh A2, but it does hit decently hard, and it's okay. All right. And the A1 attacks one enemy with a 25% chance of placing a big heal reduction for 1 turn. Very good in Spirit Keep early on, which is the most annoying of all the Spirit Keeps, guys. All right, number 9 on the list is going to be a Reviver, because every rare team will need a Reviver, and that's going to be Tree Shield Knot, another Void rare coming in here. What does he do? Well, on the A3, he's got a Revive, 2 random allies with 25% HP and 25% turn meter. That's honestly quite strong, particularly for a rare. Also places a shield on all revived allies for 2 turns, equal to 20% of their max HP. So he's going to be reviving and then boosting turn meter and then going to protect whoever he revives. Very, very, very strong, right? You can run him with some masteries that increase the shield as well to make that skill even stronger. On the A2, heals all allies by 15% of their max HP. Again, you can run him with the masteries that increase heals to make that even stronger. Also places a weak version of increased defense on all allies for 2 turns, which is okay. It's a heal. He'll help keep you alive, and he'll slightly buff you, right? And then the A1 attacks 1 enemy 3 times. A lot of this is going to be really, really good in Fire Knight early on. Each hit has a 20% chance of placing a decrease attack for 2 turns. Decrease attack, super important, particularly early game on any champion. All right, and we've got one more, and it's also going to be from the Sylvan Watchers, guys. It's going to be Brancharm Lasair. Brancharm Lasair is incredibly, incredibly good. He's got a 15% Strengthen, which is the weak version of Strengthen, on all allies, and places a Provoke, which is a crowd control debuff, on an enemy for 1 turn, right? This doesn't hit, but he does need accuracy, right? He is HP based, which makes him tanky. Then on his A2, he's going to attack everyone twice, right? Each hit has a 50% chance of placing a weak version of decrease attack for 2 turns. Also places a shield on all allies equal to 20% of this champion's max HP for 2 turns. So he is going to be making sure that the enemy does not hit as hard as they would otherwise, and he's going to be protecting everyone. That sounds great. But the highlight of his kit here for me is the A1 Chop Chop Chop, another triple hitter. We've got a lot of those today. Each hit heals this champion by 3% of their max HP. So if he gets damaged from the provoke, or if the shield gets broken, he is going to be constantly healing himself with this A1. This champion is absolutely incredible. I know I've done videos on him before, but this guy is insanely good. Now, I have one more honorable mention, and this was a fusion rare recently. It's going to be Denid the Tusk Knight from the Bannerlords. What does he do? Well, he only has 2 skills, right? The A2 attacks all enemies with a big version of Strengthen. A big version of Strengthen is absolutely game-changing in many, many situations. Of course, this is on a 3-turn cooldown, which is great, right? Reduces the damage that all allies receive by 25%. That is quite good. And then the A1 attacks 1 enemy with a 30% chance, books to a 40% chance of placing a provoke. That is actually quite good, particularly early on in Hydra. You could use this guy. He is very, very good. Denid the Tusk Knight. And then the passive here, Pig-Headed, places a shield on this champion for 2 turns equal to 10% of his max HP when hit by an enemy under a provoke debuff. So he's going to be protecting himself in case whoever he provokes happens to deal a lot of damage. All right, guys, so those are my top 10 rares in Raid Shadow Legends. Thank you for watching. Once again, you can click the link in the description below to start your very own Raid account with a free legendary, 3 epics, and now you know what rares to invest in when you get that account. Also, click the link in the description below if you would like to join my Discord. I have been Felris, and I will see you in another video.